All right. Carnivore Soldier coming at you from Austin, Texas. How you guys going, man? It's Wednesday. It's another Hump Day meetup, and we just survived the total eclipse of the sun here, and it was fun out here in Austin. The rest of you guys missed it, but no big deal. I mean, they make a big deal out of these eclipses, and they're not that big a deal. Actually, it's pretty funny, but I mean, I guess it's they call it a once in a lifetime event, but it's really only once in a lifetime if you don't have a car, right? Because next time I can just drive to the next place it's happening. So I think it happens every couple of years. Anyway, I got a couple guests in here. John LaSpina, Carnivore Teacher, and DC from Australia. How you doing? And
Great.
Carnivore Rabbi is joining us too. He's in the chat.
Yeah, I see him down there.
Carnivore Rabbi, if you got the link, jump on in if you want. Otherwise, I'll resend it to you. I see you in there saying hi, so you're welcome to join us.
Rick says, "Grab the iguana by the tail." Every time I see an iguana now, Rick, and there must be iguana season. They're all over the place here up in Boca. I think of you and the ducks.
Okay, I got to resend the link to Carnivore Rabbi.
Yeah.
I think Rick needs to write a iguana cookbook. I think
he does.
Exactly. That'd be great. I would buy it. I don't know if that's what I would buy it probably.
I would try iguana. I've never tasted it. I would try.
I've had alligator.
I've had alligator too. So
yeah, and it tastes like chicken, kind of, right? It's kind of like that.
I'm
a big movie guy.
It's like chicken that's gone through a dishwasher.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as you guys know, I'm a big movie guy.
Yeah.
So one of my favorite movies is The Matrix, where they talk about the computer couldn't get it right, so they everything tastes like chicken they couldn't figure out.
Yeah.
So, and if you guys didn't see, I did do my movie review. All right, Carnivore Rabbi, I just sent it to you. You should have it. So, Evan, just let me know if you can get in with that link. You should have no problem. And when I see you pop in, I'll drop you in. So, Evan's from Chicago. He's a Chi-Town guy, and Rabbi, cool dude. He interviewed me the other day, so I invited him to the show. We might be having Robin Switzer join us. She said she was, and she was invited. I sent the link back out. I haven't heard back from her any negative. Last time she rescheduled. So here we go. Here's Carnivore Rabbi. What's up, Evan?
Hey guys.
How you doing?
Hey, let's go down around real quick and introduce ourselves. Start with you, John. We'll go to DC and then Evan last. And Evan, you can spend a little more time since you're brand new, a new face. These guys kind of everyone knows, but we'll just go ahead and do it.
I'll make mine short. I'm John. I'm the Carnivore Teacher on YouTube, and I've been carnivore for over a year. I was ketovore for about 5 years, and healed a lot of issues, lost weight, and it's amazing. And that's why I'm on here to tell people about it.
Cool.
Very good.
DC?
Yeah, I'm DC. You see keto, fatty keto for the last 9.5 years. 9.5 years remission now. Up to stage 4 blood cancer twice, 3 years of chemotherapy, and a lot of time spent in bed. So healing from the treatments and the cancer itself, and it's kept me in remission. So a high-fat diet and strict carnivore for over a year now, and that's me. So
cool. And go ahead, Evan.
Evan Moffick. I'm a rabbi, as Larry said, in Chicagoland, and I've been carnivore actually for 2 years, keto before that, and been a big fan of Larry, and honored to be here. And I started carnivore originally for health reasons, to lose some weight, to get in shape, but as Larry has said, you come for the weight loss, stay for the mental health. I mean, the ancillary benefits have been so much greater and more meaningful, and that's what really inspired me to keep going.
That's awesome, man. So I don't know this about you. So how much did you weigh, and what was your health problems that you're trying to treat? I'm curious.
I was about 195. Like I wasn't ever like obese, severely obese. I was just, not in great shape, getting to middle age, and, not feeling healthy, and, and always had a stomach ache, just, gas and just, it was all around just general discomfort. So that was, it was like a light switch. it was a light switch when I went keto, and then like a thunderbolt in carnivore. So it wasn't like mass obesity. It was just more like, middle age, out of shape.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, I was further down the scale than you were. Obviously, I was slipping down the bad health towards type 2 diabetes and hypertension, all that stuff. So I was well beyond that side. DC, you were overcoming your cancer, and now yours is kind of a progression. You said you gravitated towards meat, right? When you were when you were fighting your cancer. And then when did you actually decide this is it, 100% carnivore? Like, that's what I'm doing.
Well, like for the last 9.5 years, I've been in remission. So I've been like a high meat, fat content like diet since mid 2014. But strict carnivore, I didn't start until last March, because I was still under the impression that you needed to have some sort of carbohydrates, and it wasn't until then that I sort of found like Doc Baker and the rest of them, and they just completely cut out carbs altogether. And at the time, I was thinking it was just a gimmick, because it was like, I've trained athletes, and athletes do it all the time. That they'll cut carbs to get lean for competition, or to competition prep, that sort of stuff. But it wasn't something I thought was sustainable, and I never really. I never really connected the dots until maybe a few years ago, where it came down to like mental health as well. High fat diet has really helped me along the way, not just with mental health, but with just the mental clarity and being able to think and concentrate again. Like especially after like the stem cell transplant and the 3 years of chemotherapy, your brain is cooked. It's like it just turns your brain to mush, really, and you can't think, you can't concentrate. I couldn't remember things. I had really poor memory. Like even my short-term memory, I couldn't remember people visiting my home like 10 minutes ago.
Wow.
That might not be a bad thing sometimes. You don't want to remember.
Yeah, it depends on who it is. Yeah.
So DC, though, now when you talk about having carbs, was it still whole foods? I mean, you had transitioned.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was never. I mean, especially like throughout my treatment, it was very, very rare that I ever ate anything out. I hate takeaway foods. I've never been big on it, especially here in Australia. It's just garbage food, really. And I don't really trust other people preparing my food because my immune system was so low. It was basically zero, because my lymphatic system was shot, so I had no immune system. So it was every meal from even before my diagnosis has always been cooked at home. But before that, it was like one of the underlying issues I had was low fat, because I was basically fat phobic, because, eating fat makes you fat, right? So it was, rabbit starvation was one of my issues. I think seed oils was another issue. The health food industry.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, I was before I was diagnosed. Yeah. And even, for some time after, the health food industry that sells you on these, like highly processed sort of foods like protein powders and things like that, which, by the way, are quite addictive because they're sweet, and they have these seed oils, and who loves chocolate flavored sort of protein powders and all that sort of stuff. It's all quite addictive, really, and they're full of seed oils. So that, I think, were the major sort of underlying issues behind my diagnosis, because most of my meals have always been home cooked. I've always been quite adamant about that, and but of course, since my diagnosis, of course, it was, I became very strict on that as well. But, I ate rice and I ate my vegetables. And, even when I got to the point where I could move again and I could start going, walking and start, because for some time I was stuck in bed. I couldn't move at all. I couldn't walk. I was still eating carbs, rice and other things as well. And I would eat the occasional homemade sort of sweets. Like my wife liked to make cookies and things like that for me, because I always liked that sort of stuff. And home baked bread. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So even when I got back into the gym, like almost 8 years, almost 8 years later. I was working hard and still couldn't sort of lose weight. It was because of the carbs. But, eventually going strict carnivore, the weight just drops off you.
Yeah. And then, John, a little bit about your story. So I know you said you were out of shape as a teacher and you were doing probably a sedentary job, right?
Yes and no. I always had a gym membership. So I was always health conscious. I just had the wrong knowledge. And, I was able to stay fairly fit, in my 20s and my early to mid 30s. As I was approaching my late 30s and going into the 40s, I'm almost 60 now. It was catching up with me and the weight was coming on and the lower back pain was getting worse. And all the things I talk about in my interviews and my story, they were progressively getting worse and mental health was going downhill. And this totally turned my life around. Like everybody else says, you are happier. You have up emotions or level or up all the time. I don't have any downs. I thought being down was part of life. Yeah. You were supposed to go through these roller coasters, and it was all the sugar and the inflammation that was causing me to not feel well. Apparently, we're not supposed to have aches and pains. We're not supposed to go, when we're 58 years old. I thought I was supposed to just ease into it, John. You're getting old. You're supposed to feel that way. And that's the messaging is out there too. When you hit a certain age, and when you hit a certain age, you're supposed to be heavier. And that's all wrong. We're supposed to be lean and fit for a very long time.
I think for women, it's even worse because they have menopause and they just assume, I'm going to get thick in menopause. I'm just going to spread out. And I mean, that's just what women assume, unless I'm super lucky. I mean, I'm not a woman, but I hear them talk about it. Yeah. And they do. And it's like, and it doesn't have to be. That's the beauty of it.
Exactly.
It's pretty amazing when you have your hormones.
It's all about hormone production, isn't it?
Yeah. And you're eating real food that your body needs and craves. And then the mental health thing, right? I mean, for me, it was, so when you talk about, I'm turning 58 May 4th, May the 4th be with you. I am a nerd. And I went and got my hair cut today, and my barber, my hairstylist, she was asking why I'm single and everything. I'm like, well, it's dating's hard and everything. So we talked about that a little bit. And she goes, that's because you're using apps. I'm like, well, where else do you meet someone? I work from home. And, and then anyway, she said, well, how old are you, Larry? I said, I'll be 58 in a couple of weeks. And she goes, no way. And she's like blown away. She's like, I thought you were like mid 40s or maybe early 50s, like 50, 51. I'm like, no, 58. Yeah. And she was blown away. I was like, well, so I was able to tell her, this is what carnivore does for you. I'm aging backwards. And that's literal, not figurative. I'm literally aging backwards right now. And it's pretty amazing. Evan, did you feel like you aged backwards at all? And how old are you, Evan?
I'm 45, May 27th.
He's a youngster.
He's a young one. I don't know.
You're the youngest
I got
DC's 49.
You're 51.
51,
okay.
Yeah.
So he's the baby. All right.
My teenagers are aging me, though. That's not easy. But yeah, absolutely. I ran into a couple that I married about 12 years ago. I didn't recognize them, because I've done hundreds of weddings. But they said, "Oh, Rabbi Moffick," and they're like, "Are you aging in reverse?" That was this was just about 2 weeks ago. Wow. And it was truly, it was remarkable. It does that. And I think, John, what you said is we are programmed to think that aging implies all of this, being overweight, being in pain, walking slowly, using a cane, all this. And, I feel for people who are older, because it's not really their fault. They've been taught that over and over, and we've been constantly told this is healthy food to eat, and this is expected, because so much money is made by people who address those needs. And it's just, that's one of the things about carnivore is you open one door and then it opens so many more. You begin to see, that can sound conspiratorial, which is, it's not. It's really, truly, it's reality. You're seeing the world as it should be seen. Right. You're more consistent with 99% of history. And I think that's just a message we have to say over and over again.
It's the they live situation, right? You put the glasses on, and if you haven't seen it, I have a review out. The movie's great. Check it out. And when you put the glasses on, you can't unsee what you've seen. Right. And that's really what it is. And that's, so this is one thing go ahead, DC. Go ahead.
So self-talk is another thing, I was just reading something today. It's like, your brain or your body is like a supercomputer, and your self-talk is the program, and we've been programmed to, just accept the fact, like everything you see around you, as you get older, you get aches and pains. As you get older, you get fat. As you get older, you get, you immobile. You get, you can't do things. You can't do the things you used to do when you were a kid. Everything is geared to make you think, or to make your self-talk negative. It's not just with the fact that we've been lied to about our food, about everything around us, but they convince us to self-talk as well. Like this.
It's in the media, it's television shows. It's embedded in every aspect of culture.
That's right.
That we get this way. And we know, as we all know, our telomeres on our chromosomes, we're supposed to live, and it's in the Bible too, to be 120.
Yep.
120. Yep. So I'm not even middle-aged yet.
Me neither. That's what I love. I love that. Yeah.
So I'm mentally, I'm thinking, all right, I'm going to live to 120, and I'm going to have that attitude. That's my self-talk now. And I'm hoping and assuming, I did these little mental things, in the year, this is 2024, 2034, 2044, 2050, I'm like, what will I be like at 90, at 100, 110? I hope that I am chugging along all the way up to the last year or two, and going downhill.
That's what I like to say. This is my highly tuned Ferrari.
There you go.
And I want it to be at 100% until the day it crashes. I don't want it to slowly get not handling as well and not accelerating like it used to. And I want it to be like, and then boom, when I hit. And if I don't make 120, something killed me early. That's
right. You don't want to suffer. Nobody wants to.
In the Torah, it says Moses, when he was 120, right before he died, he died with, and the quote is, eyes undimmed and vigor unabated.
I love that.
Yes.
I love that, man. Eyes undimmed and vigor unabated. Yeah. That's some great, and that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And that's I assume that's the Hebrew, right? You translate. Yeah, that's perfect. I mean, that's fantastic. I was studying to be a chaplain. Before I became a chief warrant officer, I was actually going to become a chaplain. I started a religious studies degree. And some of my favorite things to do were to actually translate the Bible. It's fun. From the original Greek or Aramaic or whatever. And they have these books and they show you how to do it. Wow. And you get a lot of my books behind me are actually the survey of the Old Testament, survey of the New Testament. That's all my college books. Yeah, they're just very interesting. And it's great stuff. But I love, because our language is so limited. English is a super limited language. Yeah. Super. We have one word for love. I love my puppy. I love my job. I love my wife. And those are all different loves, right? I love my brother. Totally different loves. But so I think we have a super limited language to use. And then of course we have these messages coming out on these languages too. And English is used against us. And I see these commercials now too, where they say up to 100% is what they start advertising these medicines now. They cure up to 100%. Well, everything's up to 100%. 1% is up to 100%. So like they're using marketing messaging like that in commercials openly because people just don't pay attention because we're just like 100%. Okay, good. That's what I should take, right? I need to take this medicine because it's 100% effective. Well, it's up to 100% effective. You know, and it's interesting. So I think our language is important and you know, actual reading words and what you said, self-talk. This is important too. Whenever I can't understand something, I read it out loud because then I'm reading it, I'm saying it, and I'm hearing it. Those three things combined, it's the magic. That is the magic to get you to learn something if you're having a hard time comprehending. So
one of the best ways for people to learn is to listen. You know, we are geared to listen. I mean, apart from having ears, but I mean, when you learn to speak, when you're a child or toddler, you don't sit there and read a book or anything like that. You can't read. You know, you pick things up that you hear around you. That's how you learn initially. You know, so you know things like audiobooks and things like that. That's why they're so good.
Mm-hmm. I mean, one of the great things too, learning is so central. You know, with most other diets, even carnivore is not really a diet, right? I mean, it's partially, but they're always trying to sell you something, right? Even keto, it's always, you know, this program, that, and there are some carnivores that do that. But the beautiful thing about carnivore is there's really nothing to sell. I mean, I guess you can have a training program, but it's eat meat. And that, to me, that is very refreshing because then it truly is education. You know, there's marketing / education, which you see a lot of on YouTube. This is truly education and experience. And that to me makes it more authentic, more inviting.
Yeah, that's for sure. You got a question, Evan? Besides avoiding pork, what other adjustments to the carnivore lifestyle do you have to make to keep things kosher?
Well, I don't keep strict kosher. So, but if you were, I certainly have friends who are, you have to buy kosher meat. Right. And that's kosher meat. It's available. In fact, there's a market right down the street from my synagogue. The way kosher meat is the animal is drained of blood immediately after slaughter. And so there has to be a slaughter in a certain way. And there are certain things like, for example, you can't mix milk and meat. Right. So if you were, you wouldn't cook a burger in butter, for example, because you've got the dairy and so you could cook it in tallow. No problem with that. So in fact, this is sort of a sad history. Canola oil was originally marketed very strongly to Orthodox Jewish families who kept kosher. Say, here's a seed oil you can cook with, and you can cook all your meats in it, and it's not butter. You know, and so margarine was actually very popular among kosher families. It's really sad. You know, Procter & Gamble took advantage of, their marketing. So, and kosher meat's also much more expensive. So it is a little bit harder to be carnivore, but it's certainly possible. I have actually about one or two people I know who are strictly kosher and also carnivore, and they do it.
I've read like liver can be prepared a certain way to make it kosher, like at the house, right? Once they get delivered. So I know I've read that there's ways to treat the meat too to make sure it's kosher. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for that information. That's very interesting. Let's see. So G Dizzle lost 56 pounds since November.
Wow.
Thanks to channels like yours.
Congrats.
Man, that is so exciting because we know it's not just the weight loss, right? So we know all the things going along with it.
Yeah.
The G Dizzle's got going on. That is that's a way to change your life, right?
But the thing is too, like, you know, the weight is metabolic dysfunction. So what they're really saying is that, you know, metabolically they're getting healthier, and that's the positive, and that's what's great. You know, it doesn't matter how much weight you lose. The fact is you are correcting your metabolic dysfunction, and that's the important thing. You know.
Yeah. So Charger Mopar's grandfather lived to be 94. And so here's the other thing. I don't want to just live to be 120. I want, like I said, I want to have life quality. I want to have a good quality life like Moses did, right? That's what I want. I want to be like him, not necessarily like him, but I want to be with that kind of death, That's the death I want to face. You know, when I meet my maker, I want to have like a smile on my face and, you know, race well done, my good and faithful servant kind of thing, where I've just done my thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. He
Quick.
never went to the hospital and died in his sleep. That's great. Yeah, that's
Where you
not
want
a
to
bad
go.
way to go.
Yeah.
Not a bad way to go.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Rick also says that iguanas are not kosher.
Yeah, I'm sure they probably aren't. I don't know.
What makes them not kosher? I'm curious. I know why a pig, it's 3 hooven, right? Like, why is not an iguana? I'm curious.
Probably certain things with the scales. I have to look it up. Yeah.
Interesting.
Like shrimp isn't kosher.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, really? I did not know that.
Lobster.
Yeah, lobster. Yeah, that's a tough one for you. My wife's from the East Coast. That's a tough one.
I used to love going to get the daily they had the daily double when I lived in Massachusetts, where you could get 2 lobsters. This is back in the 80s, guys. Don't get too excited. Yeah. 2 lobsters for $13 back in the 80s. And they were big, fresh caught lobsters, man.
Big claws.
And it was amazing. Let's see. J Dizzle, Bruce, absolutely. See, I started carnivore because my knee pain. Less than a week into it, my knee stopped hurting. Blew my mind. All of us have had the same results here. All of us, I guarantee you. If you have any pains in your body, try it out. Test the theory. It's so easy. You don't buy anything. It doesn't cost anything. All you have to do is just eat meat and water and salt for a month and see what happens. Probably in a couple of weeks or a week, you'll see a change in your sleep and your pain. It's pretty amazing. And we're not here making money. So
I'm still really curious. I'll say the different times it takes for different people. Like some of us, you 1 week carnivore and like suddenly you're feeling better and knee pain's gone but other people, it can take a month, even 6 months. I wonder what that difference is. That's really worth exploring. I hope, Dr. Baker or others can do some research on that, because that would at least, I was talking about your example today, Larry, with, if you in 90 days, you could get $25,000 if you stuck with carnivore. Like that's such a good motivation. What if you knew, if I could get through 4 weeks, I'm much more likely to succeed. This is something I think we need more research on.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to find out. I assume, but I don't know for sure, that it has to do with what their diet was before and how bad it was. Like, because seriously, I mean, some people who have been vegan for a while will have much harder transition because they have all the oxalate dumping, which can be painful, can be discomforting. And I didn't get that. So, I mean, someone who didn't do a lot of that might, I've heard gout can flare up while you're dumping and stuff. These could be because you're transitioning into meat, not because the meat, right? And that's a hard thing to do too. So let's see. I was going to talk about this too. This is kind of interesting. There's lots of vegan to carnivore stories, like Kat, who's here, Meat Fueled Living. She's one of them. There's many that I've known. Nia's Way. It's funny because most of them are women that I've talked to that were vegans, but there were some guys too. I've never, ever, ever heard of a carnivore going vegan. It would be their poster boy. He would be the biggest YouTube sensation ever, I think, if he could actually, or she could actually.
I have seen like 1 or 2 say that they were carnivore and then converted to or went back to veganism. But if you look back, like if you have a look at their channels, for example, like there's one imbecile in particular who says he actually has a video asking carnivores, I can help you transition from carnivore to veganism. And he went on to explain about when he was carnivore, he was eating like 6 to 7 pounds of meat a day, and he was having trouble with all this. Like, that's a massive amount of meat. I seriously doubt that anyone could actually eat that much. And then he explained like all these different problems that he had while on carnivore. But he never actually he doesn't actually have any videos on his channel of him being carnivore. So it's basically just what he's saying. Like, it's not.
I think when I say this, I think it would have to be a person that was like a carnivore advocate that switched. Like, I'd want to see a YouTube personality that was a carnivore that switched back. Or someone that had like a page where they were doing it and trying, And this is what we see with some of these other people that actually they were vegan advocates, and you look at their social media and see that they were, and they switched.
Yeah.
There's a paper trail, right? So,
yeah, that's right.
So my goal,
that's the problem though too. I find with a lot of these people that follow these people, like these so-called influencers, for example, they make no critical judgment of these people. They don't delve into their background. They don't research them at all. They just take them at face value, and whatever this imbecile when it says, he flashes someone with an opinion piece paper for half a second on his video, and they think, oh wow, this is science, and they follow that. It's utter nonsense. I always harp about this guy in particular, but doctor, I'm not going to call him doctor anymore because he's not. Gregor. If you have a look at his background, for example, okay, this guy that he writes, "How not to die," like no one will ever die, sort of thing. How not to age, and if you have a look at him, he looks, he looks 75 at 51 years old, and there's a great photo of him eating a salad, right? And it looks like he's losing an arm wrestle to a fork. He barely hold the fork up.
He's like doing this, trying to hold the fork up. Yeah.
I saw a picture of him next to Anthony Chafee, and you're like, here's this like Adonis of a dude, huge, and then you got Gregor. Yeah,
that's right. And if you have a look at his background, now he keeps coming. Now this is something that people need to look at. The guy is an absolute liar. Now, for one of his latest videos, he does this ridiculous dancing crap with a piece of broccoli. But he keeps calling himself, saying that he sees patients and he's a doctor and all this sort of stuff. He's wearing a white lab coat, and of course, he's got the stethoscope around his neck to make it professional. But have a look at his background. The guy, he did a few weeks as an intern, never did a residency, never, which means that he never ever was accredited as a doctor. If you don't do your internship, you do not have the right to call yourself a doctor.
Right.
But he's wearing a lab coat that actually says that he's which hospital he's associated with, but the hospital itself said that they've never had him on staff. He's never seen a patient in his entire life.
He's a flat out.
He's a fraud.
Which is just a fraud. Which is, obviously the guy gets pushed by every, mainstream media but look at what the mainstream media has been pushing in the last few years. The fake news, everything that corporate wants. And yet people still think that going vegan is some sort of against the establishment sort of movement. He's just pushing a global agenda. That's all he's doing. And he has no qualification to do so. He's never he calls himself a GP, a general practitioner, even though he's never qualified as one. And he's never studied any nutrition at all. He's just regurgitating bullet points that other people have been pushing.
The other doctor, I forget his last name, but his first name is Muhammad. He's got the spiky red hair.
He's an idiot.
Yeah. But same thing. His talking points are all of the ones that you see on TV and that you hear from the mainstream media, and they're all wrong about statins.
Brought to you by Pfizer.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, hey, Evan, you were going to say something.
But remember, trust the science. Remember.
Well,
but the fact is, then they silence anyone. Yeah, they silence anyone who questions it.
Yeah.
Well,
right,
I read somewhere something like 80% of cable news advertising comes from pharmaceutical companies.
Oh, yeah.
And the reason is not just to push their medicines. That's a big, but the ulterior motive is to get positive news coverage.
Yes.
Because a news network, if you're paying 80% of their bills, they're not going to want to piss you off. And so it is a huge, and it's only the United States and one other country that allow pharmaceutical companies to advertise on television. I mean, it is it's a boondoggle. And
They must have passed a law for that, because I don't remember that years ago.
right, they didn't used to be allowed
It
to.
wasn't. There was
And
no.
now it's like 80%. I have the mute button. I'm like, I don't want to hear all these side effects.
And then
That's
in
all they
between
talk-
that, it's food.
And
the
it's
fast food.
and it's Burger
Taco
King, and it's,
Bell,
right,
Burger
Taco
King,
Bell.
all these. I mean,
With the song. Now, what they're doing is
Yeah.
they're hijacking all of our favorite popular songs and changing the lyrics, right? And you hear this melody that you know and enjoyed from your youth.
Yeah.
They attach it to this product or this, you know, it just angers me when I see these drug commercials and these happy people, and then all the side effects.
Right.
Oh, God.
and almost every thing they're selling drugs for, you think about it, it's like, well, that sounds like an autoimmune issue. That sounds like an autoimmune issue. That sounds, I mean, like 90% is autoimmune issues, right? Rheumatoid arthritis to whatever, to all these different things. And then there's things that like they're taking mental health drugs. So now these are going to help them not get the twitch in their face and their hand and everything. I mean, it's like, oh my gosh, now you got to take a drug to address your symptoms from your other drug.
Right.
That is, and really all you need to do is eat meat. And that's the funny thing. I mean,
that's why YouTube is so important. That's why these conversations are so important, because it's the only way to get the word out. You're not going to get the word out on cable television. You know, CNN is never going to, or Fox News even is never going to do a story about carnivore. I mean, maybe once every 5 years or something, but the only way to get it out is independent voices.
And I think that's why they call God. And I think in the Bible, they do actually say he's the great physician, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard it, you know, it's we're designed by an awesome designer, or you can say we're evolved if you're evolutionist, which is fine. Either way, we have come to the top of the chain, and we are basically fearfully made. We are made amazingly. We're these machines that we can survive all this abuse. We put our bodies through major abuse. My body, oh my gosh, the foods I ingested, the poisons for the years, the decades. And you look at young people and think, man, if they would just do it now. But it's funny because mostly us old guys are doing this, right? We don't see a lot of young people doing this because they're not, they don't have the why yet, right? They need that why. And at $25,000,
they need the why.
check,
Right, but they also have the bandwidth to deal with it. Their body can repair quickly because they're in their 20s. Okay.
Right.
And then when they hit their 40s, like when we did, 40s and 50s, then, you know, we see a huge contrast of how great this diet makes us feel now to back when younger.
Depends how you look at it. I mean, if you, it's really not actually, you know, the dysfunction of the youth health now is far worse than it was when we were kids too.
True.
Like the childhood obesity now is just out of control. It's unbelievable.
True.
And childhood rates of disease, major disease like cancer and other things is just skyrocketing. So it's not that, okay, there are a lucky few that, you know, have made it to adulthood and they think that they're going well, you know, right now. But
everything involves food. Everything involves food.
Everything.
That is, you know, in high school and middle school, it's a birthday. Everyone, you bring a cake or cupcakes.
Okay.
Everything involves
Holidays.
If you look at destinations on any travel,
food is entertainment.
it's always food.
It is
always
entertainment
these
and
restaurants,
reward.
these restaurants, this ice cream. I mean, you can't go to the beach without all these restaurants being listed. And
Right.
Hey, we got a comment, Michael Manahan. And by the way, there's no medical advice going on here. We're just talking. Where none of us are medical or a dietitian. We're just talking about our experience and what we've observed.
Right.
But Michael Manahan has been 3 months in and elbow pain. So some questions are like, what is your carnivore diet looking like? Are you eating dairy at all? Because that can be inflammatory. And, you know, are you doing cheat days, that kind of stuff? Also, it could be.
What kind of meat?
What's that?
What kind of meats? You know, like just because you're eating like so meats doesn't always mean that you're clean carnivore either. They're like processed meats like sausages and salamis and things like that. You know, that are full of seed oils and other things. But like you said before too, Larry, is you know, when you're oxalate dumping as well, you do get like that pain come up in joints.
That could be it for this person here, because that happens. I've been oxalate dumping. I had a kidney stone. I had an eye issue. Every 6 months I get an achy feeling, and I believe that I'm still, I put so many oxalates in my body. I could tell you all the things I made in my shakes.
Years.
Juices. It was bad. So if this, and some people, a lot of people have arthritic type aches that are related to oxalic acid that has crystallized in their joints.
That's right.
And
They're actually crystals.
Yes.
It's actually crystals happening. It's like,
That's
that's the same thing that causes the kidney stones, the crystallization.
I'm right in the middle of reading Sally Norton's book. It's amazing. I'm learning so much more about oxalates, and I'll tell you, it makes me just like, why plants? I mean, what's the point of a plant? Our discussion about all of the addictive drugs, they're all plant foods,
Right.
So many negative things about plants, and there really aren't any negatives about
Meat.
Real healthy, good meat. You get all of your protein, fatty acids, vitamins, and minerals, and none of the bad stuff that plants have.
The other thing is too, you can't get everything just from beef. All right.
Right.
So you have to. I mean, you should be mixing up your meats as well. Have pork, bacon, lamb. Lamb is fantastic for omega-3s, for example, and seafood. Beef is great, and as long as you have fatty beef, really fatty stuff, fat should be your priority. But you need to mix up those meats as well, and the fat sources. Okay.
Yeah, I agree with all that, and I would say it could be oxalate dumping. Now, the other thing is oxalates are in everything. They're not just like, oh, I shouldn't eat spinach. Well, oxalates are in coffee and tea, everything. So you just have to minimize, and you should. I forget how many grams you're supposed to keep yourself under. It's not much though.
You want to be around 150. Some people say 200 a day, and we actually make some of our own oxalates as an end product, but we can handle the 30 or 40 or 50 milligrams. But if our body can tolerate about 150 milligrams of oxalate a day, all you need is a couple of little spinach leaves, a little bit of dark chocolate, a little bit of cinnamon or turmeric, and you're way up into the 300 and 400 milligrams per day, and starting to collect in your body. Yeah.
While you're on the coffee thing too, I've seen many carnivores. Another thing is, when you are carnivore, because you're on clean food, your body is more sensitive too. So because it lets you know what your body will accept and what it's not supposed to accept.
True.
So you're more sensitive to that. But I have seen many carnivores also, who do keep coffee, depending on where your source is. That if it works for you, that's fine. I'm not saying, but because they do drink coffee, they go to places like Starbucks. Okay, and many people do that. They get themselves a big latte, for example. Now, when you do that, like I have a video on this, you can check it out. There's plenty of links there to prove all this. Like one venti latte has the same sugar content as 7 glazed donuts. So basically, you're eating when you're drinking this coffee, this latte, you're drinking a box of donuts, and they have like 5 different seed oils in them, and some of them in particular are so carcinogenic. They actually use them in labs to actually generate and grow tumors, so that they can actually practice, try and research anti-tumor drugs. Okay, so that's another reason why you might get you're going to have problems if you go carnivore. You think, okay, I'm not going to give up the coffee. That's fine, but going to Starbucks or places like that, that's not. I don't care what diet you're on, whether you're a vegan, carnivore, or anything else. Starbucks and those kind of coffee places should be one of your main avoid places, because they are full of sugar, but also the seed oils. Whether you have a high sugar content or not, those seed oils are doing the damage.
Most restaurants.
I went on a date once a long time ago, and the girl bought coffee with oat milk in it. I was like, oh my gosh, that's like the worst thing you could put. That's pure seed oils, pure, with a little bit of oatmeal, just
like
a
this
little
date's
bit.
over.
Yeah, and I did ask her. I mean, I hate being like the Nazi, but I was like, hey, are you allergic to dairy, or why did you get that? She goes, well, I'm just trying to be healthy. I'm like, oh my gosh,
that's the knowledge. That's what we're told. We think that's healthy. These messages are constantly out there and all over the place. They're not hearing our message. They're not hearing the message that seed oils are bad. Like our last discussion last Wednesday night was all about seed oils.
Yeah,
so many people just don't know about it. or don't care.
The Evil
Yeah,
Food
that's
Supply YouTube channel has a great documentary on oat milk.
That's such a good channel.
If you have anyone that is into oat milk, just share it with them. Hey, did you know this about oat milk? It's like a 20-minute video. It's a great little mini documentary. Evil Food Supply. If you don't know them, go like and subscribe. Great channel.
Yeah, they are really good.
So, Nourishment Redacted, Ellie said that 30-ish% of children are obese. It breaks my heart. Yes. And we never saw that. We never saw that growing up. I mean, never. Growing up,
there was
the one kid. Yeah.
But that's just what you see. You know, as I said, like obesity is just metabolic damage. But look at the other damages that you have metabolically. Like I was very lean when I was diagnosed. So obesity wasn't my problem, but I was still diagnosed with cancer, even though I was very fit. And there's a lot of children in that same boat. Like in America, the demographic, the highest rate of cancer demographic are children. All right, that is the number one cause of death, like in children in America and in Australia. All right, but that's not because of obesity.
On SSRIs and mental health drugs now too, and Ritalin.
Yeah,
and really, it's their diet probably that is the main contributor. I'm not saying the only
one.
Right.
Well, you look at the way baby formula is produced. Yeah, that stuff is nothing but toxic. It is absolute toxic. Then you have
funds schools. I mean, Coca-Cola gives huge money so that they stack with soda machines.
We had soda machines in my high school. I remember when they came in, we were excited.
They had them where I taught.
That's one of the reasons why that stuff is so cheap as well, because it's all taxpayer funded. It's subsidized. All these junk foods are subsidized. That's why they're in schools.
Yeah, you can use food stamps.
The taxpayer dollars are paying for it. Yeah, food stamps pay for it, for God's sake.
Yeah.
So Dave,
tally means something like 10% of food stamp money is spent on soda.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And then and there's so much more spent on just packaged food with seed oils and stuff. It's terrible. So Dave Saunier, he's a veteran. He's about my age, I think. Anyway, he's an athlete, and he's going to do an Appalachian trail hike. So this is something else that happens on Carnivore. You start setting goals. You start like moving forward. You get off the couch and you mentally put yourself somewhere else doing something, and you start doing it. The thoughts become actions. The actions become habits. The habits become your character, and your character becomes your destiny. And I'm big into that. This is what it's all about, man. And this is what you cannot pay me $50, $100, $250, $1 million to quit, because I didn't have any of that. I was sitting on the couch watching TV, flip. This is what I did. That's what I did on the couch. And that was my day. And now my TV's just still off. I walk by it unless there's a hockey game on, which I'm a Red Wings fan. Sorry, Rabbi. I don't know if you're a hockey fan, but I'm a Red Wings fan. So
I know, I
are you a Blackhawks fan?
I'm a I love Blackhawks.
Okay, all right. We can watch a game together sometime.
Yeah, Blackhawks games are the most fun.
Yes, but I'm so glad we got Kane. Patrick Kane's fantastic. But anyway, he was a great player for you guys. But all I got to say is that mental change that he's going to go do this Appalachian. Listen, that never was on his radar before he started this. I guarantee it. And I know you guys probably the same thing. You have set your goals, Dave. DC, I know you're writing a book. That was never on your radar before, right? I mean, these things just start coming up. I'm writing a book. I mean, these things start coming up and they drive you. I don't know what you're doing, John, if you got stuff you're planning.
I wrote 5 articles in a magazine that I never would have done that before.
Right.
And I'm thinking, if I continue to do this, I can take these and put them together and make a book.
Right.
Because I just, and the same thing, I want to get out and move. I can't sit still because I feel well. Yeah. And you want to do things. You're up and you're fixing and cleaning and working out because you want to, because it's enjoyable.
Yes.
And like before, settle in and get old. That's how you felt before.
Evan, how about you?
How much fun does that trail hike sound though? That sounds awesome.
Yeah. Appalachian Trail is pretty cool. Evan, what about you?
100%. It both physical and mental. I write also, and I would always try to write something every day. Now I can write double. Started lifting weights. I hadn't lifted weights in like 10 years. In about 2 years. Yeah. And it kind of drives my wife a little crazy because I'll be like, all right, let's keep going. She's like, oh no, we walked around the block once. We don't need to walk the dog again. I'm like, come on, he's got energy.
Evan, how about your wife? Is she carnivore too, or keto, or?
No, unfortunately, she definitely eats more meat since I started.
Okay.
Well, okay. That's good.
She was so suspicious
That's
at first. But
she
was so suspicious. Like she thought it was a terrible idea. But then as it worked, she embraced it. I mean, so
right.
Yeah, I'm working on her. I think I've got 2 teenagers and I wish I'd known about carnivore
Me too.
A long time ago.
Yeah.
I think once they leave the house and we can sort of control the food supply more, I think she's going to move closer to carnivore. That's my hope, at least.
She'll see you getting healthier and younger.
Yes.
And
we won't have to deal with the kids wanting pizza and this and that all the time. You know, I don't want to, you know, it's enough. You have to pick your battles, you know? So I think she's moving in that direction, thankfully.
Well, Hexander says, good evening all. One thing for sure, in my circle of friends and family, they do not get carnivore. They are starting to now that I'm down 60 pounds, right?
Yeah.
So that's the thing. The proofs, I mean, you've got your receipts. That's your receipts, bro.
Works. Yeah.
You can't tell. You just can't tell people. You have to show them.
Yeah. And then they still have to have a why, right? I mean, I can show that
That's
my
right.
son's seen me do it, but my son still strays and goes and gets his food, which is fine. You know, I mean, he said, we went to got barbecue the other night. He's like, can I get mac and cheese? I'm like, sure, go ahead. You know what? As long as it's informed consent. Now you know what's in there. You know it's not good for you. Yes, you can have it. That's fine. He still chooses to eat healthy most of the time, but he does. You know, I'm not going to be the Nazi that says, no, you can't have that. That's, you know,
He'll do the opposite if you do that.
he will. He'll hate being around me, right? He'll want to go to his mom's, and you know, I don't want that. And that's not the goal. The goal is to set a good example and be a good role model.
That's right.
And you know, temperance, right? So he's a good kid. He's got no problems. So
we're not vegans. We're not trying to shove it down people's
right.
They do. They put the guilt trip on. You're killing, you're murdering, you're torturing the animals, the way they're treated. And
have you guys seen that Ted Nugent video where he talks about killing the most animals? So Ted Nugent is a world famous hunter. He's a great naturalist.
I know. Yeah, he's like,
and a great musician, by the way. I love it. I've seen him live. He's fantastic. But let me tell you what, he does this video where he talks about, well, if you really want to kill the most animals in your life, be a vegan. He said, because when a farmer has a crop of soy, they kill anything that's alive that goes in that crop. Anything. If it's a bug, if it's a snake, whatever, they're going to kill it because it cannot be in there. And they said anything they don't kill will be killed when they plow and they bring it up at the end, or when they're harvesting. So everything will die in there. That will be a dead zone. You're going to kill every rabbit, every shrew, every vole, every mole, every songbird that gets caught in there.
Pesticides, fertilizers, all the.
Oh yeah, and then anything you did, you're going to kill with poison. You're going to kill not just the insects. You're going to kill all the animals that get sprayed too. So you're like a record-winning killer if you're doing that, compared to a hunter that goes and kills a few deer a year, and then maybe
all that meat.
Buy one cow, right? You're not killing nearly as many. And those cows, you think the cows and the deer, they're just out eating. They're not killing animals. They're not killing insects. You know, well, maybe they're eating them, but
they're adding wonderful things to the ground.
Exactly. They're making our topsoil, right? They're making fertile topsoil. So it's the industrial. Vegans are actually the industrialists. We are the naturalists.
Oh yeah,
and that's really the view you have to take, because they are pushing all the industrial solutions, the industrial seed oil,
great book on this
monocrop. Go ahead.
Monocrop farming. Yep. Near Keith. She wrote a book called The Vegetarian Myth. That is must reading. It is. She really.
Who is that?
Her name is Near Keith.
Near Keith.
Okay. Yeah. And I heard an interview with her, and I got the book, and it's fantastic. I mean, she talks about how monocrop.
Yeah, she recently did an interview with Doc Chafee. Actually, it's very good.
Yeah, she's brilliant.
Yeah,
that's cool. But yeah, it's just it's such a myth. But anyway, that what's great about the Ted Nugent video is he's my generation, and it's a very short video, and he's being interviewed by Joe Rogan, and he talks about it. And there's a little foul language in there, but that's Ted Nugent. You know, you got to take that with it. But I tell you what, in in maybe 30 seconds, he gives you the boom. This is the bluff, the bottom line up front that we call the military. This is what it is to be a vegan. You're maximizing death at scale in large areas. And that didn't even talk about how that monocrop area used to be a refuge. It used to be a natural wildlife habitat for all kinds of animals that can't live there anymore because you destroyed it. So now you can't have foxes and all these things that used to live in the trees and, you know, beavers and stuff. You can't have none of that. Nope, that can't be there. So you have to destroy their habitat and then put in your monocrop.
I think I heard Chafee's interview with this person that you're talking about. Now everything's ringing a bell. I think she talked about, if you look around the world at areas that are now deserts, you know, way back before they agriculture,
because of crops.
Yeah, there were crops.
Well, Egypt
is an example.
Egypt. I mean, the Nile was like the lush place, right? I mean, and they just farmed the heck out of that place.
Yeah. And we know the Egyptians had a lot of grain from their tea.
And this was modern
the slaves did. The slaves ate a lot of grain.
Until microscopes, we didn't know how many living species were in the dirt. I mean, we just you can't see them, but you see if you look close how many.
It's not just that, though. I mean, it's not just like the micro sort of insects and everything like that. Like there's large animal that that all that this monocropping sort of destroys. And they also have sharpshooters, that will shoot any large animal that gets near the place as well. It's not just the poison.
In Texas, farmers they'll hire us to go shooting us. I say most military guys and hunters to go shoot the pigs that are the feral pigs are destroying crops, and destroying their land. And we go out at night and you set up the truck and it's got spotlights all the way around, or seats all the way around, and you sit out there and just go to town with suppressors, silently shooting these guys. And I mean, they pay you. So if you're eating their foods, then you're supporting that business right there. I guarantee you're supporting me going out and shooting hogs. That's exactly what you're doing when you're buying your vegetables that are grown in Texas anyway. And Louisiana, same way. There's a lot of places like that. So
in Australia, it's most pigs, kangaroos, anything high, even like wombats and echidna and things like that.
Yeah. So Nourishment Redacted says, keto and carnivore got me down 72 pounds. My family can't believe how my body's changed. They won't ever do it though. Well, I'll never say never.
Never.
They won't right now. When they get their why gets big enough, they may come back and readdress this, because now it's in the back of their mind. This works,
and they're watching.
They're watching, right? You're the example, and that's very interesting. But people always watch, and they always I go back to the Christian thing again. Paul wrote about eating meat offered up at an altar, right, where it's to another god, and he basically said, someone asked him, said, hey, we can buy this meat cheaper, is this okay to do? And he's like, yeah, it's not a problem to buy meat that was offered up at an altar. He's like, but the problem is that a new Christian might see that and not understand that you're a mature Christian, and they may think that, well, they act just like everyone else does. So everyone has this concept of what a Christian acts like, right? And if they see you acting differently, they think, oh, this guy's a fraud, or they're all like that. And the same with carnivore. So now they're going to watch you. So they've seen you had this great success, but now they're going to watch and see if you're actually sticking to it. How much how hard it is, how much of a pain in the butt it is, if it's worth it. They're still doing that battle. The mental gymnastics, I guarantee it, are going on.
And there's fear. I mean, I think people tell themselves, it's like limiting beliefs. People tell themselves they can't do it. And that's almost a way of avoiding doing hard things. I mean, becoming a carnivore at the beginning, especially if you're coming from vegan, but if you're just coming to it from the standard American diet, it's hard the first month.
Yeah.
You get the keto flu, you get diarrhea, and it's harder for some than others. But people tell themselves, oh, I could never do it. I could never give up chocolate. Right. So it's easier not to try. You're so afraid of failure. So you tell yourself, I can't do it.
And there's the addiction aspect to sugar and all those other things. You crave it. You want it. It's part of your ritual. It's been part of your life all the years that you've lived on the planet. And then all of a sudden you're going to stop it all. Yeah. I mean, some people, they can't fathom that. if they could only look and see the other side of all the amazing benefits that it can do for you.
Yeah, just like the motivation we're talking about. And so when people always say, like, I could never do X or Y, that's my $25,000 check was the challenge for them. But you can just look at people like, let's say, look at Ukraine when they got invaded by the Russians, Soviets. So they got invaded by the Russians. Those people were not drinking coffee daily when they were running for their lives. They were not eating chocolate daily. They were surviving, and they didn't go, oh, I guess I can't do this. I'm just going to stay here and die. No, they got up and ran. And you know, when your human body can handle a lot, and when you're pushed to survive, you will do it. So this is the thing, is we're just too comfortable. We don't have to do that. We don't have that why. Their why becomes, I need to survive. I need to get my kid out of here. I need to get away from a war zone. So they're going to do whatever it takes. We don't have that here.
It's self-talk. You know, they always say, "Oh, I can't," or "I can't," or "I couldn't," or "I couldn't." I wouldn't want to give up this. The same as, you know, like people get when you give up smoking. You know, some people, you know, find it very difficult because they need that. They have that habit of putting something to their mouth all the time, so they put on weight because they start putting on. You know, start using that habit with food. But I think carnivore gives you the tools, I think, to give up addiction much easier, because you start to think and feel a lot better. And if you do it properly, if you have a high fat diet, you are satiated much more often than what you would be if you're on any kind of sugar or carb or anything like that. So I think that's another reason why it has a much higher success rate.
Yeah. So then we have a new comment here from Simpson Johns. My husband has been carnivore for a week now. It took a year. So she was apparently carnivore, and then finally her husband went
great,
carnivore, which is fantastic. That's the way it's going to happen if it does.
Yeah.
And if not, you got to give people, you know, you got to give them some grace and let them do their thing. You know, now that I'm single, when I date with intention, it's going to be someone who's on the diet. I don't want to like convince someone or change them to my diet. That's not the goal. Just like I don't want to convert them to Christianity or make them a conservative person politically. I don't want to do that. I want to find someone who's already got those baseline values and say, all right, let's do this together. And if you're married, that's not your choice always, right? So if you're partnered up and your partner decides not to do it, then you have to, as long as I'm good with that, as long as they're supporting you and your thing, right? And I think that's the important thing. And you can give them some grace and just say, listen, this is okay. You do your thing, I'll do mine, and you know, not get into it. I guess is the way to do it. I've never had that situation in a relationship, so I don't know, because I became carnivore and I've been single since then, pretty much. So I've gone some dates, but I really haven't been dating anyone with intention like at that point. So for me, I can't see really the sense in moving in and marrying someone, or, you know, long-term relationship with someone who's not going to be doing that diet, because it's roadblocks. It's like they're going to want to go do things that I don't want to do, and their
life is involving a lot of food.
Exactly, that's what I'm talking about.
Reasons,
food,
nourishment,
entertainment, right. Yeah, and I want to do food for nourishment. So,
which it can be done. I mean, you can go and they have their entertainment, and you order your steak. You know,
exactly.
It's just it is a lot harder. You got to come up with an app that's just for carnivores for dating.
Yeah, carnivore dating app.
I think, you know,
on the bottom floor.
I've heard that what's her name's coming up with that.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I haven't seen it though. I've heard there's a rumor that it was coming up, but I don't know if it's out.
It will probably be more ketogenic, more.
Yeah, they should do a keto app and have a carnivore section.
Because carnivore.
You just like a checkbox here. Are you carnivore? Are you keto? Or are you ketovore? Right? You just check one of those three, and then.
I think keto and carnivore could get along like that. That's pretty close enough. Like, you know, the keto person could have a side of cauliflower or something.
Well, carnivore is a ketogenic diet, right?
Yes.
And
on the spectrum.
At Ketocon, they changed the name from Ketocon to Hack Your Health, because it's expanding to really include the carnivores, which are probably, I'm guessing 50%, but maybe more. We'll see when we get there. I'm really interested to see what the percentage of carnivores are there. You know, observationally anyway, and with the speakers. So I'm really excited about Ketocon, by the way, coming up here at the end of May. or the
Is
yeah.
Is Austin like the center of the carnivore universe? That's what it's got to
It
be.
doesn't seem like it. Well, there's lots of beef here.
Yeah.
So that's wonderful. And it just doesn't seem like it from the people I know, but it seems there's a lot of carnivores here. There are. Yeah. There are. So Ellie said, my husband, 2 toddlers eat meat-based carnivore with me. Wow, that's fantastic. I can't complain too much. As a support of people who matter most. That's huge. Yeah, that is huge to have in your corner, right? Oh, Ellie's going to see her husband. Bye. Thanks for stopping by, Ellie. Well, we've been about an hour and a little over. So you guys have any closing statements or what's going on in your channels you want to share before we jump off? Why don't we start with that? John, why don't you tell us what you're doing on your channel?
I don't go through my whole story, but I've been putting up 1 video a day. They were the old videos that I lost that I had on my hard drive, and I'm going back. It's interesting. I look at those and I don't like them anymore. Some of them. I'm going back further in time, and I make better videos now. So I'm choosing not to do them. I'm starting to add more newer videos, which are focusing more on carnivore. Before they were kind of ketovore-ish because I was converting from ketovore to carnivore. So my talks were in between there. And because I'm going back in time and adding them. So I'm making new videos. I'm playing around with lyrics, making lyrics to music that everybody knows and making carnivore songs. I'm having a blast doing that.
Nice.
I've made 4 of them so far. And I'm looking forward to Keto, Hack Your Health, Ketocon. I really am looking forward to meeting so many great people that I've only spoken to on social media or in live. Like I'm going to meet you, Larry. I'm going to meet so many great people. I'm really looking forward to that. So,
all right, DC, what you got going on?
I've been sort of stepping back a bit recently, but this weekend I will be doing some interviews. I'll be talking to the Baroness of Beef. She's studying nutrition at the moment and is carnivore. I'll also be talking to Dr. Sarah Pugh on Sunday too. So I've got a few big things coming up actually. I'll also be talking to Dr. Robert Lufkin, the guy who wrote Lies I Taught in Medical School. That will be coming up in a couple of weeks. So I've got a few things coming up. Some big interviews. And maybe I've got to start catching up with some of the my own sort of videos as well. So like just informed consent I think is a critical thing for most people, and I think it's a very difficult thing to find, which is why like when you look at labels on food, for example. When you look at the ingredients, they don't tell you what's actually in it. Like they say, like, food coloring 405, like it's all numbered because they don't want people to know what's in the food they are eating. So I might start doing a few things like that.
Sounds good.
Deal. All right, Evan, what do you got?
Channel had a really good week. I've been focusing more on kind of the psychology of how we can stick to carnivore. And I actually looked at some of the writings of the Nobel Prize winner, Daniel Kahneman, who just died. And he had this idea about loss aversion, that we fear loss so much more than we appreciate gain. There's all kinds of studies on this about somebody who will take a bet, heads, you win $100, tails, you lose 80. You would take that bet all day long, because you're 20, but most people don't. Most people are afraid of the loss. So I kind of talked about how people hesitate to become carnivore because we are afraid of losing. We're afraid of losing the ability to eat chocolate or French fries or anything, but we don't see the benefit. And that one did very well. And to me, that's really interesting. The what goes on in our brains that prevent us from doing hard things. What are our limiting beliefs? And then this Friday, I'm interviewing guys in your neck of the woods, Larry. He's in near San Antonio, between San Antonio and Austin, and he's a reverend, a minister who is also a carnivore named Jimmy Pruitt, and he's great.
Oh, cool.
So I'm interviewing him this Friday. He's not going to be at Hack Your Health because he's going to be out of town, but he's a really good guy to meet. So I'm looking forward to that.
Well, send me his contact info. I'll email him. We can get up barbecue sometime together.
Yeah.
So for my channel, I just did, like I said, the They Live movie review. And then I also interviewed a guy named Carlos, who I met at one of my meetups. If you get a chance to go to in-person meetups, do it. They're local. There's actually a website for that. Do you guys remember what it is? Is it Carnivore Meetup.com or something? Anyway, there's a website for carnivore meetups that actually lists all of them. I'll post it in the description from this. Anyway, I met him at one I was hosting. I host a couple in Austin, and saw his before and after pictures and heard his story. He's a physical therapist and was obese his whole life. And now you would never know. Like when I saw him, he just looked like some fit dude. I'm like, okay, this guy's like some fit guy in his early 40s, and his story is really good. So I just did that video, and then I have an air fryer company contacted me to test and evaluate one of their fryers. So I did that, a tasty air fryer, and I have that video coming out.
Oh.
I basically did an air fry and it's cool because it's got a probe in it. So you put the probe in your ribeye, you throw it in there, and you air fry it, and it comes perfect. It gets to the perfect temperature you want.
So you like it?
I compared that. Yeah, I did like it. I compare it to there's some things I don't like about it, but overall I liked it. I would recommend it. And then I compare it to my gold standard air fryer that I use all the time because I use that. And I do a taste comparison with the ribeyes with my son tasting it, and then me tasting it, and then Duke. I let Duke taste and see which one he liked better, which probably closest. But anyway, so that's all I got coming this week. Yeah. So, all right, guys, I'm going to drop you guys off. I'm going to say goodbye. If you guys stick around for a minute, we can all say goodbye. Okay, hold on. All right, guys, that was a fantastic show. Thanks for stopping by. Really appreciate you guys hanging in there and listening. And go ahead and share this stuff out. If you like my show, like and subscribe, and share this on social media so you can get this message out, because we know the mainstream media will never get this message out. So it's up to us. All right. So all I got to say is stay strong and overcome. Carnivore Soldier out.